We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go, gentlemen. We're live.
Oh,
All right,
up,
welcome
whoa.
Bay Area Combat Podcast number 11 here. So we have a special guest host today. His name is Mikyo Riggs. He's a Health Gracie black belt. Yeah. Don Surveillance Papa Midnight. Everybody knows him as.
Everybody knows him.
Nap Valley MMA. Marine MMA is Mikyo's school. So take it away, Mikyo.
Well, we're sitting out here in Martinez. You know, I came out here. It's been a while since I've been out to the East Bay, but it actually took me back to when I was training out in Pleasant Hill back in the early 90s at Cesar Gracie's Academy, which is where I started doing jiu-jitsu.
Feeling that nostalgia, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm feeling that nostalgia. I was thinking back about all the teams in the Bay Area and kind of how it got started and how all those guys out there back in the day were white belts. You got Dave Terrell, you got Kurt Osiander, you got David Camarillo. A lot of big names in the sport that were just kind of white belts back then. Everybody training kind of on the same mat. And just what it was like, my first exposure to an environment like that.
And look at them now, what they're doing. You know, they've obviously became black belts, coaching people now. All of their students are leading the sport, whether it's jiu-jitsu, MMA, whatever they're doing. It's pretty amazing.
So what you're saying is that Caesar's the one that really planted the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu name in Northern California.
Cesar did get it started. You know, he really had the first school out here. You know, I think that Carle Gracie had a school in San Francisco in the early days, but it wasn't as big as Caesar's. And it was just a different time back then, you know. It was very much, very different than traditional martial arts, very different than anything I had come in contact with up until then. Up until then, my experience was more learning kind of a primitive MMA style, which was like JKD, Jeet Kune Do, and boxing, and a little bit of judo, a little bit of wrestling, but nothing really extensive on the ground. My teacher back then, I think in 1993, he went to a Rickson Gracie seminar. He drove up to Oregon, came back down a different person. Like, he literally had a different look in his eye, and he literally was like, I met like a real martial arts master, and now we're going to be doing this. And so from that moment on, we started practicing the fundamentals of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu until I found Cesar Gracie's school and started to travel over there. And at about 17, it was very, very new. There was no MMA landscape. The UFC, this was in 1993. You know, I think the first UFC was in 94, so it didn't even really exist. You know what I mean? I had heard of jiu-jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, before I'd even heard of the UFC. So I know that it was before the UFC, you know? And so back then, the reason why people trained was very different than now. You know, everybody really trained for more street self-defense, more like to be a badass on the street and to, you know, protect themselves, protect their family.
Is that wrong?
I'm back to that. That's where I am now.
Isn't it amazing the first time you get, like, the first time somebody who really knows what they're doing puts their hands on you?
And it's
I remember
like,
my
fuck,
first
I'm helpless.
Experience,
Helpless.
first experience with somebody who really knows what they're doing, and it's just like you're a fish out of water. They can do whatever they want to. It's such an eye-opening experience.
Dude,
right?
you just flashed me back to one of my memories. The first time I really got on the mat with somebody, it was like this old man. I'm thinking, I'm gonna fuck this old man up.
Well, Steve,
and it's like,
this
dude,
is a family.
Oh shit! But
This is a family
this dude
podcast.
fucking choked me unconscious to the point where I'm like, holy shit, sold me. You know, it was the first time ever I've like really rolled with somebody that was like older. I was thinking that I'm gonna beat this old hunchback old man up. He put me out.
Yeah, we all kind of thought that, you know. I mean, for me, that man was Kurt, you know. I would see Kurt and I would be like, this guy is older than me. I'm stronger than him. I'm faster than him. I'm more athletic than him. And yet he would tap me out every single time, you know.
Pow!
There you
And I just didn't understand it, you know. I didn't understand it.
It's weird. When I started off boxing first, so it was like, I feel like it was a little bit more of an even playing field, because if you had a little bit more athleticism, then you could last a little bit longer. If you're bigger, stronger, you get paired up or sparring with somebody a little bit smaller than you could take a little bit of punishment. But when you're doing jiu-jitsu, it's 100% different. You know, there's no possible way that you could defend yourself, even with, doesn't matter how athletic you are, with somebody who really, really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point, Don, because I had the same experience where I played sports all my life, captain of my teams, leading scorer of my teams. You know, I was already had martial arts experience, and when I came to jiu-jitsu, I was just getting arm locked and choked, and
Oh, my leg.
yeah,
Oh, my arm.
I couldn't figure out why it was happening and why I couldn't just master it real quickly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was real
definitely.
slow.
Yeah, definitely.
Slow
Slow
coming
progression
up,
for sure.
So
Hey.
a lot of memories, about the old days and
Did
what it
Kurt
was all
did
about.
Kurt have wild hair still back then?
Kurt had he actually didn't, man. He had short hair, and
Really?
I had long hair, and he would make fun of me all the time for my long hair. Tell me, cut your hair, man, cut your hair.
There's all these hippies out here thinking they can run on the mat.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of funny, man.
Yeah,
to
I
see
feel like the Clay Guida hair is coming back,
Right.
It is.
A lot of jiu-jitsu guys got it.
Yeah.
Man bun central.
It's
you
just
know.
the worst hair ever for training.
Yeah,
long
for
hair,
real.
the worst hair
That's
ever
where you
for
get all the
training,
female fighters starting to cut their hair now.
Yeah,
Right?
but I tell you what,
Seriously, though.
you
Yeah.
gotta do a hair cleanup on the
Doug
mat
Rose, you see her,
afterwards.
she's bald now.
Yeah. But so if we go back to the old days and what fighting was then, and we get to what fighting is now, I feel like there's a difference between kind of competitors now and fighters, Guy, and this is MMA, so we're talking about MMA, not so much jiu-jitsu. I think it's a little more prevalent in the jiu-jitsu.
Definitely.
Guys
There's
never
martial
been in a
artists,
fight
and
in
then
their life.
There's competitors.
Yeah, guys never been in a fight in their life. Just they're figuring out how to exploit the rules, how to do the techniques, But
Yeah.
there lacks kind of a certain drive.
Heart. It's called heart.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
let's protect our fucking record. Let's
Yeah.
only take fights that we can win. It's like whatever happened to the fucking fight anyone, anytime, anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It's like now it's like, oh, I can't take that fight because it's not going to look good on my. You know what, motherfuckers? When are you going to fight? What happened to the fighter?
Well, I'll even take it a step further than that. Is people fight not to lose. They don't really fight to win.
Right. They're
Like,
afraid to take chances.
in my day,
Fear.
first competition I ever did, I didn't even know the rules. I remember Half told me, tap the guy and you win. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Try to finish the
That's
guy.
that's the way that people
it'll-
should be taught, for sure.
Right.
And so my
Fight.
team, you know what I mean? I talk about my team as my first generation, the guys I came up training with.
You can slide that mic to you a little closer.
I was trying to get you to slide your mic back.
Well, basically, we were taught if we didn't finish the guy in a fight, it was not over, and we did not win. So guys on my team would win matches by big margins, 15-0, and walk away crying like they just lost.
You can
because
slide,
they
there you
didn't
go. Now you get so everybody outside this.
Steve, you need to slide your mic back too.
No,
You're yelling.
otherwise I get. Well, see, the thing is, though, outside of here, it's like people won't be able to hear us. So that's why we got to talk into the mic nice and loud because we want to hear what the
I
shit
feel
you
so
got to
relaxed
say.
now.
Hopefully, you guys can hear
Ooh,
all the
that
wise
voice.
words,
Aye.
Right?
the knowledge that I'm laying down.
I feel like I'm on Left Talk Radio right now. Mikyo talking to Mike slower one more time.
yes, I will.
I'm getting excited.
But that's
you're definitely right about that, Mikyo.
Yeah, I mean that's what I miss about the sport is that I came from Half, and Half's real old school, and it was like you fight to the death, man. You're fighting for honor, you're fighting for your team, you're fighting for your teacher, you're fighting for every ounce of energy and time that every one of your teammates, your training partners has put into you, not to lose. You know what I mean?
that's true.
And it's like now I just. It's like I don't mind watching fights, but you're looking at guys that are literally, they're content with the decision. They're content to stay on the outside jab. They're content.
They're not fighting.
They feel like a winner when the whole fight's against the cage and they come away, raise their hand, like they did something. You know what I mean? It's
I've
just
definitely been in many of those grinders, especially in the last few years.
No, it's not. It's part of the game, but I mean, we were really taught. Win or lose, you go out on your sword, you go out on your shield, man. You swing for the fences.
Yeah, it was definitely a different sport.
You try to
back then,
finish the
for
guy.
sure.
Well, everybody's,
Everybody wants to be a fighter now. That's for sure.
Ah, dude,
And that's the
everybody
essence
wants
of
to
what
be a fighter.
fighting is, though,
Yeah.
is to really just try to win. I mean, you get a guy like Steve right here. I mean, Steve is of that old school mentality. I mean, a guy that loves to fight just to fight. You know what I'm saying? Of course, this guy wants to win, but he wants to compete. He wants to get in there. He wants to prove himself. He just loves fighting. You know what I'm trying to say? And that's a rare thing in this sport. What else would get a guy his age to be still in there competing, still in there banging it out?
yeah. Well, it's like what you're saying though. It's like you can't take the fight out of the fighter, no matter what.
No
A
matter
real
what, man.
a real
Yeah.
fighter's a real fighter.
Yeah.
What I've noticed though, and especially in like the last 10 years since I've been training, like when I first started fighting as an amateur, it was a lot tougher. The competition was so tough, and it took a long time before a gym would let you fight. You could easily as an amateur, like, oh well, we don't think you're ready. Now
Yeah.
you could have a guy come in off the street, train for 2 months, and he's already in there fighting. You know,
And he's on a
everybody-
competitive level though with the
but
other
he's
guys
not
though.
on a competitive. No, he's not.
Well,
He
dude.
looks like crap,
yeah.
and they look like crap, and then the whole fight looks like crap. But then it gives us a bad name as MMA fighters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you see, as
I'm
as
definitely more of a fighter than I am like a martial artist. That's for sure. You know? We
right.
get in
And
there,
see,
we get
that's
in there
the
to
that's
fight.
the level of fucking competitors
It's
out
in
there though.
comparison
It's
to
like,
these guys,
I know, I feel you.
they're
you
just
know?
guys off the street, just getting in there, giving us a bad name.
See, everybody.
Well, the
you're
problem
talking-
with the show is that there's always going to be someone that wants to fight. You can always pick someone out of the crowd. You can always get somebody that just wants to say they're a fighter, and so the level can always drop really, really
Yeah.
low. You know, I mean, back in the day, you know, even like in the cage combat, the early days, the NorCal MMA scene growing. You had a lot of really high-level guys fighting amateur, man. Guys with serious
there's now,
records,
but still like
serious
that, yeah.
black belts, you know, judo, black belts, all that, boxers, kickboxers with no experience. So they're amateur MMA guys. You know, the level was real high, but I do miss those fights because I felt like it was the real proving ground.
Right.
And sometimes when people get to be pro or they get to go to the UFC, all they care about is not losing, man. It's just like I said, it's anything to protect your brand, anything to
Yeah.
protect yourself.
But the
you
thing
know?
is they've made it that way. They've
Exactly.
made it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
have a loss, then it's frowned upon and this and that.
You
You're
go
set
back a couple
years.
steps. Yeah,
and
absolutely,
it's
man.
like that's why people are going in there and they're putting out shit fights. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
They're protecting themselves. They're trying to protect their name. Because
Yeah.
the UFC and everyone has made it that way, where you have to win, or you're not going to get paid. You know, you're not going to get your next check. You're
Yeah,
gonna
see
get cut.
overall, as a fight promoter and stuff, that's something that I try to steer away from. I'd rather not have a fight than have a fight like that. I try to match the shit up where every fight's gonna be a fight of the
hate
night.
going up to a fighter after when they obviously have zero experience and be like, oh, where do you train? What's going on? Oh, I don't train. I've only done this for 2 months since I got in this cage.
Yeah.
Like, how are you even able to get in? How is the commission able to let these people who have zero experience get in there and do what they're doing?
That's what Camo's
I saw.
about.
I'm not gonna say I saw a fight. I went to a show. It wasn't your show, obviously. We went out of town to a show, and this girl just was killing this other girl. And like, I could see before the show even started, the way this girl was warming up, the way she was like shadow boxing in the corner of the cage, that she had zero experience, you know. And this girl just got ran through, you know. Literally within the first 3 combinations, the fight was stopped.
Yeah.
And then I'm talking to other people in the crowd, like, oh yeah, I know that girl. Look, she just started training at this gym over here. Like, so you've been training for 2-3 months, and they're gonna let you get in there and potentially have brain damage.
We
you
were
know?
never allowed
It's
like that.
crazy.
When we were coming up, it was like
Nuts.
you got to be a black belt to fight, you know, and that's
Because
why a
it's
lot
real,
of my
though.
guys didn't fight because
Martial arts is real. People can
Yeah,
die and
yeah,
get hurt.
yeah. And also, you should have to earn your way into that spot. You shouldn't just get a pass just because you're willing. You know what I'm saying? It's like willing shouldn't be enough. You
It's
know,
dangerous.
you got to have the skill set, and it is dangerous, man. It's a
Look at Jorge Masvidal and Ben Askren. Crazy. You see that flying knee knockout?
that was incredible.
Put him on
Yeah.
his butt.
And someone sees that
That
though.
was violence right there.
But it's like the I want it now generation, just like we're talking about. That knee is the result of years and years and years and years of training. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
perfect the timing, perfect
Exactly.
the power, all that kind of stuff. And people just think they can. And then everybody with 2 months experience wants to try to flying knee somebody
Yeah, exactly.
because they think
They didn't
that's
even realize that Ben
they
Askren.
think that's where they're at.
yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, that's where
in
they're
their
at,
head.
you
Yeah,
know?
in their head. It's like going to a high school and asking who's the toughest
Dude,
kid.
hey, see, I've run into this same kind of shit with these guys. Oh, I've had one fight. Oh, I'm gonna be a title fighter, right? I'm like, fuck no.
You know I'm undefeated in the streets.
Dude, yeah. Dude, I've had 10 fucking backyard fights. I should fucking be fighting for a title. I'm like, no, you shouldn't,
I
dude.
love that. That's my favorite. I hear
Oh,
that every day.
it kills me.
There's
Yeah,
there's
I
a
got a few
progression,
street
man,
fights.
to fighting. You know what I mean? It's like you're not throwing the flying knees when you don't know how to do a front kick. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
right.
You're not doing Imanari.
Don't worry, guys.
leg
You'll
lock
never
attacks.
see me throw a flying knee.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the way
Dude,
it
hey,
is.
it's that. I've had people coming in trying to go to class with us, and they're like, yeah, I know all about this. I watch a lot of UFC.
Yeah.
Like, damn, holy shit.
What is another scary thing also that people are actually learning from watching and YouTube and stuff like that because it's so prevalent.
Yeah,
that you get
yeah.
kids beating the crap out of each other in high school because
Yeah.
they saw something on YouTube.
I would say that's the next, generation is
Yeah,
the
they're gonna
YouTube
be-
kind
yeah.
of generation, the no team at all kind of guys.
And who are actually pretty good.
Yeah. If you guys remember the late Evan Tanner,
Yeah.
the UFC, he was the first guy to really like watch videos and stuff and not really come from a team and rise to a UFC caliber. Like, he got a
crazy.
belt. He
But
got the
they're
belt,
definitely talented people who have great body awareness and just, understand how to be a badass. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. I mean, it just gets into the question of like, training with a team versus, being a team of one kind of, you know what I mean?
Which is dangerous.
Yeah, and
even if your team is of like 3 people, it's still better than being by yourself.
Right.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a joke. I thought that too when I was young. Like, I just train myself. I don't need anybody. And you look at kind of how many people you do need, and you look at that like, what a joke. What a young kid. What a dumb young kid to say something like that.
I think to have a decent competitive minimum fight camp attendance is like 3 people. Outside of yourself, at least
somebody to watch you and
I'd
yell at
say-
you the whole time.
I say 3 people. I say 3 people too, because you need 1 teacher and you need 1 training partner at least, and then everybody's got to work hard, and that's really all you
Right.
need to get it going. You know what I mean? Of course,
But
the
that's
more
also
helps.
with a good base skill set too, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like Don.
You have to have a partner to be able to actually
Right.
know what is going to flop on the ground.
It's like
Jiu-jitsu's hard to do by yourself, man.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Or with a bad partner.
well, it's like we've Napa Valley MMA is a small club, but we also incorporate like we're you're kind of like one of our sister schools or vice versa, however you want to put it. It's like we work well together. Like when our school runs short of people, we go to you guys, help us out. You know what I mean? And hopefully our input helps you guys out too.
Absolutely, man.
Because you guys contribute so much, but it's like
We're brutes. That's
well, it's like
cross training can always bring a lot to your team if you do it right.
Yeah, because it's like I steer my people away from actually cross training outside of the people that we train with because
they don't pick up bad habits.
bad habits. Because I know you guys teach. Mikyo, you're one of the best teachers out there, in my opinion.
For sure, California for sure.
Oh, you guys are very sweet.
feel a little teary. No, but it's like like we, Don and I have trained together since Don's days.
Since my day one.
Day one, right? And it's like it's like
baby.
we've been there. Sometimes it's like only me and Don in the gym and stuff. And it's like that's why we travel to your gym too.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, cross training is great as long as there's no conflicts. You know what I mean? If
Right.
Don has a guy in my gym his same weight fighting in the same promotion, that's
Probably not gonna work out.
that's not where you go to train. You know what I mean? And once you kind of have those, cross training is good, but I still think maybe it's controversial, but I can't understand how. The whole mentality
The gym
of like,
hopping?
train everywhere, train with everybody.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
can't
really
stand it.
believe any real teacher feels that way.
And there's no
Sorry,
structure.
sorry.
Also,
No.
there's no structure. You're hopping around. You're not getting consistent.
Because the only way to build your team is to have your students training
Consistency.
together.
Yes,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So what
learning
does that
consistently
benefit anybody
together.
to be like, go train over there, go train over there? Where's your team, man?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I don't think that it's bad. It's not bad to do it sometimes. It's
Well,
not bad to cross train.
I limit it
the
every day.
majority,
The
the
majority,
majority of your
for
training
sure.
should be at your home
You should have
academy.
a home
Well, I had
You know?
I had one of my students that on that same point. It's like they show up at a gym without talking to me first. They show up at a gym, and then they're like, "Oh, well, we can't train with you because you're going to be fighting one of our guys." And because I match make and stuff like that for my guys at my gym. Turns out one of the guys he was going to be attentively fighting against was actually training at that gym. I'm like, dudes, this is why we don't cross train without communication, talking with each other, prearranging this so that this shit don't happen. Because you cross train too much, you eliminate a whole field of competitors.
The best
Yeah, I
cross training is sparring now.
Yeah, it is.
I
mean,
love to go just to play punch face.
the way the way Half taught us, and the way I always feel about it is, if you're gonna train somebody, and the way that we train somebody, it's more like a family. It's more like a team. You know what I mean? So you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into somebody. You're giving them all that you
Years
have.
of knowledge. Yeah.
My students, I've had students I talk to every single day on the phone. I do their diet, their life, I'm their counselor, all that kind of stuff. I'm not really just like, yeah, man, just go train somewhere else. I don't really care.
I care.
Because like what Hoff always said, you train a guy, you train a student, they go over there, they help the other team, that guy comes, beats your guy, and we're not playing for money, man. We're playing for body parts. You know what I mean? It's like what's on the line, man. Like someone gets hurt. You know what I mean? You teach somebody something that can really hurt somebody, and then they go offshore, and then the guy fights your guy. I mean, it happens, but it's I don't think it's the best. You know what I mean?
What do you think about all of this? The YouTube training, releasing all of your information, all of the hidden techniques that shouldn't be shown, that should be taught.
Well,
in
I
a
think
gym
I think it goes back to what I was saying. You're ignoring the fact that it takes like 15 years of good training to be able to land that spin elbow. But people can see it online. They just want to start with that. You know what I mean? It's a I want it now generation without putting the time in. You know, so ultimately I think it's dangerous because people fundamentals are so important.
You
You know,
got
I
the
feel
online academies now too. Leg locks, like leg lock specialists showing, you know,
Crazy
inside the
lady.
looks, everything. Just
So I got it. So
First
I
day
just
got
gets
it.
people hurt, man. You know, like all these things like heel hooks coming back into style. They're not new. We were doing heel hooks 25 years ago, but you know, it's like then you're gonna have a lot of knee injuries. You know, like you have a lot of injuries.
It
You know,
doesn't
like,
hurt yet. It doesn't hurt yet. Oh shit! I can't walk now.
like it takes some years though to figure out the backlash. You know what I mean? It's like I've talked to a lot of the pros about 50-50 guard, a lot of these positions where you're just gonna hurt yourself after a
So
while.
let's talk about monetary value, because you and I, you know, this is our life. This is our life. This is our blood.
Yeah.
You and I have spent a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in order to teach and keep our gyms open throughout the years. How many? I look at this as, if you look at it as business dollar value to like all this free education on TV. I've spent in the last 10 years just crazy amount of money, probably $150,000 out of my pocket just to pass on the knowledge and create an environment to teach.
Absolutely.
You've done, I think, probably greater than
Yeah.
that, actually, considering how many students you've had. And,
I mean,
you know,
I've been teaching for 27 years. You know, I've been teaching in the Bay Area for that long. I was teaching jiu-jitsu from when I was a white belt because I was already a black belt in another style. Knew how to teach, was an instructor, and so when I would learn something new, of course I would want to show it. Of course, I didn't say I was a jiu-jitsu black belt, but I was good at transferring the knowledge that I had to the level that I was.
it
You know
takes a
what I
certain
mean?
person to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so why?
Not everybody
And so
should
yeah,
teach.
of course, man. I don't agree with all the online stuff. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
it kills me.
I think it's stupid, and I think that the main flaw of it though is that you do need a coach to sit there and help you with the adjustment, and there is a body feel that you're not going to get
Most
from an
people don't
online.
have that body awareness.
Yeah,
They're
an
just gonna
online
grab
thing.
something from wherever.
And how do I know that? Because I've been learning online since DVDs came out, since the instructionals came out, and I know the limitation because it's like I said, I'm a third-degree black belt, been training a long time, and if I have a hard time doing it, you know what I mean, or understanding the position,
Imagine somebody with
I
no
can't
experience.
imagine. Yeah, exactly. You know, someone with no experience or a white belt, it's like.
Hey, I'm a white belt.
Well, it's another thing about why you're a warrior, though, Steve. Is you know, you never really cared about belts, you never cared about titles. You're just in it for the combat, man, and that's what I always respected about you.
Who's got their lunch money?
Yeah, right. Hey, you can't take the fight out of the fighter. You know?
You can't, man. You can't, and you know, unfortunately, we'll be fighters until long after our body allows us to be able to do it. We still have
I got
the
about
same
5
mentality.
years, guys.
Hey, you know what? So
Yeah, it's tough, man.
let's talk about, you know, like, because you're famous in our world. You know what I mean? We know who you are. Could you tell the fans out there watching your credentials and where, you know, what kind of like where you're
you
at?
are.
Who
I
you
wouldn't.
are.
I wouldn't really say I'm famous or
Well,
anything
you
like
are.
that, or even anything. You know,
We
I'm
all
just.
know who you are, though. So you're.
I'm just a humble
You
boy.
way too humble. Simmer down. All
So you're
right.
so you're a black belt under Health Gracie.
I started training martial arts in Marin under Mike Valentine. I got my second-degree black belt in freestyle MMA from him in 1994, and then I was started training with Cesar Gracie when he first started, I believe in '93. I trained with him in the early days until I went to Half Gracie Academy in 1998. I was at Half's the first week that it opened. I trained in the San Francisco Academy. I helped build that school. San Francisco Half Gracie Academy, I was the first blue belt at that academy, and I was the first purple belt. And if you guys understand what it was like in those days, there was a lot
Brutal.
of pressure on the first blue belt and the first purple belt and just kind of what it looked like. I did some competitions early in my career, nothing the way. When I was coming up, there weren't a lot of tournaments. There weren't a lot of competitions, you know, but, you know, I did the first Gracie Open and like the US Open, like #2, and like all, you know, when all that stuff was first starting, the California State Championships. And it was cool back then because it meant something because there weren't a lot of tournaments, so everybody came to those to those competitions. Every division was stacked, you know, you got 5 fights to win, all that kind of stuff, you know, so. You know,
You're not
it was
getting walked over to the next fight.
yeah, well, nowadays you can every weekend you can just go somewhere, have one fight, win a gold medal, and say
champ,
I'm
yeah.
the title of
Get a
this, you
belt.
know. And it doesn't really mean that much to me, you know. But you know, I won some competitions. I did, you know, I did a couple kickboxing tournaments, and I did a Muay Thai tournament, open weight class, where I fought like in the finals against a 225 guy at 175, you know, and won that match. And then I started, I wanted to do MMA, but at House we had to get good at jiu-jitsu first, you know, that was kind of the way it worked. And, with my mentality, you know, that at some point in my career, I really put my honor almost above my physical well-being, you know, so I didn't want to tap, man. My ego got in the way. I got hurt in training. I got hurt in fights. I watched my leg, you know, tear in a competition without even changing my expression. You know what I mean? And
Game face, baby.
yeah, and so, you know, I
Been there.
I got kind of beat up, and then I opened, I started really like my own fight team in 2003, I think, you know, and my early team, I had a lot of success with my guys. You know, I was getting my students in the IBJJF World Championships and stuff like that, and doing some early MMA. You know, I had a girl fight, you know, and back then, and I had a couple guys on Steve's show at the Cage Combat.
Yep,
You know, all my
that
guys.
That was badass.
That was,
I the ring announcer
all my
for that
guys
one.
were like,
No,
Oh,
actually,
no, for that one? Oh, okay, 'cause that one was badass.
So Mikyo, in my history, we I think met back in 2007 at the earlier Cage Combat days. I think you fought had Bond.
I had Bond fighting, I had
fight-
Marco fighting. Marco was set up to fight for the title. All my guys were undefeated. You know, we kind of moved away from MMA fighting, like competing. But I think my team record was like 50-4 or something like that. You
That's
know,
crazy.
Pretty good.
That is crazy good.
Yeah, and same with my jiu-jitsu. My early guys, you know, were really
Fighters
studs,
don't pay the
you know,
bills, though.
and you
That's
know,
true.
did really well in competition, and then and then I just kind of moved into like my original mission was to teach high-level martial arts to everybody, you know, so just really wanting to spread martial arts and jiu-jitsu, not just to the hardcore fan base, but to everybody, you know,
To the general population.
help the
which everybody
kids,
should.
help the, you know what I mean? And then I really got to a point where I'm teaching like a little 7-year-old, you know, self-defense and doing, you know,
Little ninjas.
yeah, stuff like that. But it really felt good to me. You
Yeah,
know, I
for
felt like
sure.
I was really making a difference in people's lives, you know. So, you know, and then I just been running my school, you know, Marin MMA I've had for 14 years. You know, just taught thousands of guys, you know.
That's amazing. So you started off with original intent to learn how to fight. You said
Exactly, yeah.
MMA was your
Yeah.
first credentials that you got, and then you slowly got into jiu-jitsu
Yeah,
after that.
it's interesting because I think everybody on my team at House originally wanted to fight, like Vale Tudo, you know, like
Yeah.
no rules, MMA, you know, like
Bare
MMA wasn't the
knuckle,
term,
knock
it
you
was
in the head.
NHB back then, you know, no holds
Knee
barred.
in the head on the ground,
And
shit.
I remember doing
Stomp your face.
my first jiu-jitsu tournament. I remember telling Half after, like, I never want to do something where I can't punch or kick. You know, like, what is this? You know what I mean?
Right.
What is this? You know,
But I need to use my hands.
yeah,
Not just grip somebody's neck.
yeah, and it was tough, man. You know, like it was tough to find help on the mat. It was tough. You know, I met BJ Penn at Half's, you know, back in the 90s, and you know, BJ was super cool to me. We had a connection from, you know, I was from Hawaii, and he was just a nice guy. Like I instantly liked him because of his attitude and his laid
Your
back
bromance started.
kind of way. Yeah, and my bromance started, and you know, I trained with BJ a lot, and was able to go stay with him in Hawaii and train with him
I've seen
every
some of those
day.
pictures, back in the day.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
and so I got you know, some of that influence, you know what I mean, and then I had Half's influence as well, and you know, I also had a Lions Den coach as well from back in the day. You know, so I had, you know, I learned like the leg locks and the foot locks like real early on in my career.
The best
So,
way, huh?
so you and I created the one of the first bridges between the Lions Den and the Gracie Academy. So,
I think I possibly was the first guy ever to be
Right.
training at
Yeah.
the Lions Den
Yep.
and the Gracie Academy
crazy,
at the
yeah.
height of
Yeah.
their feud, you know? Don't tell anyone that, everyone. It's still a secret.
and then
I still get in trouble.
And then also we have,
Don't tell Half.
and then we also have Andy Morana. He's one of the coaches at NorCal Fight Alliance also.
Yeah, yeah.
So we really started bridging some big, huge gaps.
Mandy, if you're watching this, I miss you.
Absolutely, man. You know, and it's like we were saying, you know, it's great to have teams, and everybody should have rivalries and teams, but it is nice when you can find some allegiances or, you know, branch out a little bit and be able to have everybody grow. Everybody ultimately grows when you cross train. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But again, you got to do it the right way, man.
Yes,
you
for
know what
sure.
I mean? It's like people say that all the time. Oh, go to whatever gym you want. Oh, cross train with everybody. All I'll say is there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do
What
that.
do you think about the future of it? I feel like one day there's going to be somebody in this kind of setting with another teacher, showing moves online, and then there's going to be schools that are watching them show the moves online at the same time.
I think that
Maybe simultaneous classes going together.
I think the hybrid gym is coming. I think that the group class mentality is going to start to fade a little bit.
People
I
are
think
afraid to
you're
get
gonna
choked
more
out.
and more online stuff. You're going to get more
You
and
can
more.
see even in the way that like they do church nowadays. It's like they'll be sitting down, and then like the screen will come on, and then the sermon will be all together at the same time, and then they'll do their own thing, and then they'll come back and talk all again together.
Wow.
It might be the
I didn't
same
know
way.
that.
Same way
Yeah.
for jiu-jitsu.
Right.
We'll show the move. All right, now back at your home campus, everybody do a move together, and then we'll come back and go over it again.
Like when I started before the internet, before YouTube, all that stuff. I mean, now you can tell how old I am. It was
the
the only thing
internet
you
started,
could
like, what,
learn was
5
what you
years
learned
ago?
at your academy. The only information you had. When we wanted to train with like the legends of the sport, like I had to go to Brazil. You know what I mean? To train with those guys I had heard of. You know what I mean? To learn from different guys. So it's it's an information overload age now. Where it's almost like, what's the point of having a team because everyone's showing everything online,
Now for $39.99.
Yeah. but a lot of times, I feel like when I watch instructionals, it's good to be a black belt because I can watch instructionals and go, man, I watched this guy fight and he's showing none of his game. He's showing a lot of positions and a lot of moves, but it's not what he's doing. You know what I mean? It's easy to show flash. I mean, we call them seminar moves. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to show seminar moves to get the oohs and ahs, but who can do that? Who's making it work? Is that really like, your move that you're doing on everybody? So I think for the average student, it could be very hard to understand which techniques are worth your time. You know what I'm trying to say? It's like
the trial and error.
it's like I could spend my time practicing one hard roundhouse kick, or I could be like, I'm gonna practice like a 360 jumping, spinning axe kick or something like that.
That will never land.
But then again, depending on your quality of your training partners, how good they are, you could be landing this shit like on point with these motherfuckers.
Until you get in with
and
somebody
then
who knows
that's
what
who's
they're
a
doing.
real motherfucker.
Yes, but
And then all of a sudden you get fucked up and you're like, how did that happen?
But if we all got 1 hour to train, and you're training that 360 flying kick, and I do my roundhouse kick, what's a better use of your time? What's going to get used more? You know what I mean? What are you going to land more? You know what I mean?
Jiu-jitsu.
Like,
Grab a hold of them, choke them
So
out.
what
the
you
hypertrophy
train
moves,
though,
for
what you
sure.
train is important. You know
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say?
that's
If a
very
guy
true.
all he wants to do is Berimbolo rolls or Imanari rolls, and he doesn't know how to pass the guard, he doesn't know how to stand up in posture. What's going to happen when the guy figures out that's his one move? You know what I mean?
seriously,
So I
It's a
think it's
wrap.
important, like to differentiate or to have a teacher, someone that's walked the road before you. You know what I'm saying? Someone that's like, hey man, a teacher isn't someone that knows everything, just on the same path further down than you. But with my students, my intention is always, man, I want to save you years. I
That's
want
a
to.
great way to put it. And that's very
Yeah.
humbling also. Most people think of their teacher as like the pinnacle, the best or whatever, and like they can't grow anymore, but everybody's still growing together.
I think of me as like, I've made a million mistakes, all of them, and I don't want you to make all the same ones. So if you listen to me, I can probably get you where I am in half the time.
That's
what I mean?
that's just like what a parent
Half the
does to their
injuries.
kids. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And
Yeah,
that's
half
what-
the injuries.
and that's what the coaching is about, is being the parent of the household, teaching your children the knowledge, you know what I mean, of being the success.
A great teacher always wants his students to be better than him.
Absolutely.
And if that's not your teacher, man, but a lot of teachers, when you get close, they turn away.
That's for sure.
And so that's where you really know, man, that guy's not.
Steve, what's that analogy you always tell me?
Oh yeah, it's like you're climbing the ladder of success, and some days, if you're doing your job right as a coach and teacher, your students will climb upon your shoulders and climb the ladder of success above you.
Absolutely.
And then it's like if my students ain't tapping me out, I fucked up.
And that's your success.
Yeah,
You know what I
that
mean?
is. That
Like,
truly
that's
is
your
what
success.
The first day my students tap me out, I'm like, oh shit, I did my job.
Yeah.
Now I gotta watch out.
That's for real, you're right.
Even the guys that I beat, like my teachers and stuff like that I tapped out. It's like, I didn't tap you out. You tapped you out by putting yourself in me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And so I feel like it's almost my duty to kind of improve the technique, for them, Or you just say to your students, you're not allowed to do anything on me. Anything I show you on me.
Hey, you know,
You ain't getting nothing.
you know, it's
I'm gonna tap you out today. You'll never. Tap
you know, so like my goal is like I get in my guys' face, I push them around, I punch them as fucking much as I can, and shit.
Yesterday was not that fun.
And the thing is though, it's like if your students ain't trying to use you as a mark of their success, and then really maybe you aren't the guy to teach them.
Absolutely.
You know?
I mean, my students, they still come at me pretty hard, and every time I train with one of my guys, because I'm probably the most injured guy in the gym. And they're coming at me super hard, and
You just
and I
got
go,
out of the sling yesterday.
why don't you train like that with everybody, man? Why you do that just with me? That's what I'm looking for when I watch you train with everybody.
I still try to punch my coach in the head as hard as I can.
That's what you got to do, man. You'll never see me go as hard as when I go with Half or with BJ, or you know what I mean. That's life or death right there.
It is. You're right.
It really is life or death.
You know, it's
And I don't want to let them down. You know what I mean?
you know,
By not being tough, I don't want to let them down.
That is their success at the end of the day.
You know, it's a trip. We were talking about people, fighters trying to protect their amateur records and shit, trying to protect their records as fighters. One of our viewers just actually shot me a message just now. It's like, I had a matchup. I'm going to bring this topic up because I love putting people out on blast.
Blast them.
Blast time.
Blast time,
so
blast
I had a 205 fight in my last show. And the guy fucking took the fight, fought the guy, won his fight. What was talked about on the table was going to be his next fight after that. If he won, was to fight for our Bay Area Combat's 205 title.
Did he get scared?
He didn't take the matchup because they said some.
Was it too tough for him as an amateur?
My opinion is it's fear based because the person that he fought was I don't want to say names, but the person was on parole. The person was currently out on bail. He still fought the guy, right?
Troublemakers.
Right. Well, see, the thing is, though, the fight
The best of the best in society
So,
in
see,
MMA.
and so, due to this guy's job position, you would think that, okay, that information's out. Now,
Yeah.
the person that we wanted to fight has a criminal past record. Past. No, I'm talking, hey, all these dudes are good-ass dudes. It's, you get in trouble. That doesn't mean you're a bad guy. It just means you got in trouble. And you just need to straighten your shit out. So I gave him the opportunity to fight for our title. He wouldn't take the fight. I'm like, well, it sounds
sorry,
like
but
you're
he's
fucking scared is what the fuck it sounds like.
I don't fight people with past criminal records. It just goes against my Christian
Right,
values.
right. Yeah, but though, see, the
You
thing
won't
is,
fight very
so-
many guys, that right?
Tough
To find a fight.
Right, yeah, you'll never fight again. But the thing is, though, like Bay Area Combat, we are the community. We are for the community of fighting. The thing about MMA, it actually brings and unites the community as a whole because
It does.
It does. It's like we have every walk of
I
life.
love the amateur shows more than the
Right.
pro shows because it's
more of
the
a-
proving ground, man. It's like
And it is
the
more like a
hungriest
family.
guys.
Everybody
Yeah.
knows each other.
It's like,
Everybody.
do you ever notice, like, our shows, I like our shows as a good example. It's like our shows has every walk of life, doctors, lawyers, business owners.
Bodybuilders fresh out of
bodybuilders.
jail.
You know what I'm saying? But it has everybody gets along. Everybody doesn't have a problem. We never have no, knock on wood. We've never had an issue in the crowds or anything like that because it's like everybody's there because they all love the sport and we produce a good quality show, I like to say. But it's like, to duck and dodge a fight and to say that it's fucking has something to do with your company policy. I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. How the fuck is it company policy for you not to fight some dude?
I don't know,
And
man. People are
it's
duck and
bullshit.
dodge
That's
fights.
duck and dodge in
I
a
mean,
fight.
I
Well, you
just
should
can't
a
believe
fighter-
that happens as an amateur. As a pro, it makes sense. I mean,
Well,
they're trying to protect how much money they make on it. I've had
That's
so
one
many
thing,
fights
though.
pulled out, like even
Yeah.
in the last.
That's
2
protecting
weeks.
record, though.
You know what I'm saying?
That's protecting a
A
fucking
fighter
something else.
fights.
Yeah.
A fighter
Fighter
fights.
fights.
But as an amateur, yeah, you should just get
Fight
in there.
anybody.
Just get in there and learn.
It is-
Well,
that's
it's not
bullshit,
even
though.
that though. I mean, your teacher, your coach, whoever should be telling you, setting it up or whatever. But you shouldn't even. The fighter shouldn't even have any knowledge or any.
You're right.
any
You're
care.
definitely right about that.
Right.
And that's the
Yeah.
great thing about
That's
jujitsu.
the
You
way it
know,
should
like
be.
back in the day of jujitsu. Now it's like you can look up your bracket and find, YouTube your opponents. But back in the day in jiu-jitsu, we never
just
knew who
went
we're going
did
to
it.
fight. You don't know
Yeah.
who you're going to fight.
That's
and
how
you
it
don't
is
know
in
when
amateur
you're going to
boxing.
fight.
Still, they
You know?
still you fight who you're gonna fight. You
Yeah.
don't know who it is.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, all you know is the weight they weigh
It kind
in.
of frees you up a little
Yeah,
bit
exactly. It
sometimes.
does free you
and,
up.
and I have,
Open your
less
mind,
stress.
right?
I've had a couple of good students, one in particular that did really, really well. And, anytime I would be like, oh, this person's tough, it would always ruined their confidence. You know, they
You're
did
right.
better when they didn't know who anyone was. They didn't want to know who anyone was.
Because
you know what I
they
mean?
went out there to fight.
Then they fight their fight. You know what I mean?
I'm going back to, I don't want to know any opponent's name
Yeah,
anymore.
you're
Let's
fighting
just
their
do it.
reputation. You know, you're fighting their.
You're fighting their reputation.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I mean? It's like the Tyson mystique. You know what I mean? It's like Tyson beat everybody before they even walked on into
for
the
sure.
ring. You know
Anderson
what I mean?
Silva.
Yeah, exactly. Anderson Silva. You know, but when fighters start fighting the fighter, then they do a lot better. You know what I mean? Then
That's a beautiful philosophy.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I like that. You know, it's like say, fight. Get out and fucking fight. You know, like when I first started fighting, it's like you didn't even know who the fuck you were fighting for until the goddamn day of the fight. Damn
Well,
near.
you have
You
to
were
have,
back in those
of
days
course,
too.
man.
You know.
But you have to have ultimate trust, man. You're putting your life on the line. So a fighter has to trust his teacher, his coach, his training partners, all that, to do what's right for him.
That's
You
true.
know what I'm
You're
trying
right.
to say? But again, they shouldn't be the one making that decision. If
You
they still
definitely
want to
should
pick,
never be the one,
if they
yeah.
still want to pick and choose their fight stuff like that, they probably shouldn't be in the fight game.
That's
you
for
know what I
sure.
mean? They're
You're
not
right.
they're not a real fighter.
Yeah.
They might just be a
That's
competitor.
also part of the coaches. They need to establish that. You know.
Competitors are ultimately just concerned with the win. Fighters, you
So
know,
that's why I put my fighters against
But I
anybody.
do need
know
to sign a contract. Like I need to know that I'm fighting. It's so
Right.
hard for me to cut
Well,
weight.
Oh,
of
you
course.
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you,
yeah.
you might have a fight.
But again, that's your
fluffy there,
job.
Don.
Your job
Yeah.
is to be ready on
I just ate
fight
some
night.
chicken right now. My bad.
You know what I'm saying? Your job is just to be ready on fight night. You shouldn't have to worry about finding opponents.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's
Just
someone
know that
else's job,
Just know
man.
that it's there, and you're
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah. No, it's we never. I didn't. You know, it's like I understand with professional MMA stuff like that. You know, you got to train, you got to have camps, but we never. We stayed ready. You know what I mean? We stayed ready. We trained every day for the idea that you might go to bed at night, wake up, and have to defend your life, have to defend your family. I get the call 2 days before the fight.
Well,
you
that's
know?
a real martial artist. And
Yeah.
Right,
there's
a real fighter.
There's far in between now than nowadays. There's a lot of competitors. There's a lot of fighters, but there's not a lot of martial artists.
Or Half just says, you know, hey man, this weekend you're fighting. You know,
You're like,
Who-
all right,
You don't say
let's
who
do
am I
it.
fighting, what is it? You do what Half says. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
I like
and you
that
don't want to,
mentality.
and you
I
don't
like
want to
that,
let
yeah.
him down. You don't want to let
And
him
it's
down.
hard to find people that have that
Heart.
same drive and
Heart.
Like it's like, especially being from Napa, where there's not a lot of fighters there. You know, I know some fighters there, obviously, but there's not a lot of people who.
Yeah,
want to.
yeah.
You know what though?
yeah.
Between Adam Wamsley's gym
Yeah,
and our
he's
gym,
he's
our
awesome.
two is the only
Yeah.
gyms really that
That
have fighters.
Fighters, yeah.
That's it.
For real.
We
for
got
sure.
what? You know, we got all his
Real
Napa
fighters
soda.
are few and far between, man. It's not they don't grow on trees, man.
And don't
It's
forget
not
that,
they really don't, though. And
Yeah.
a real fighter is also hard to. You know, it takes time. It takes years. It takes a long time to build the skills, and that's why when you got the 2-month fighter, it's like, what are you really watching? What
And
is the
don't
guy
forget
really
Adam
watching? You know what I
Walmsley,
mean?
speaking of which, is fighting
It's
August 10th.
entertainment, but it's not a fight.
Adam's fighting on August 10th at the URCC Dragon House show.
Cool.
Yep.
I almost got a fight on that, but
Tell me about that.
Guys.
Let's talk about that. You know,
Well, Don, I remember, you know, I mean, I've known you now for a little while
Yeah.
before you ever were pro, all that, you know, and it's been,
Yeah, it's been a long time.
it's
huh?
cool, you know, I mean, no, it's cool because I actually do know you for all those
Yeah.
years, and you're having just the career that is just like all the things that happen, fighters that pull out, injuries, you know, like it's just kind of part of the game, and
It is a part
you're
of the
just
game,
you're
you're
just
right.
growing with experience through it because now you know
It's
I
not
got
the
to be
fairy
ready,
tale
but
everybody sees. Yeah.
I got to be ready, but until I'm standing in the cage looking at the guy, I don't know if the fight's going to happen.
That's
I don't
true.
know if that's going to be the guy I'm fighting. I don't
That's
know.
true,
You know
you're
what I mean?
right,
And that's unfortunately part of the game. You know what I mean? In the
Yeah,
fight
no, I
game.
remember growing up, like starting, like you see these fighters who become successful very quickly, and you don't realize that that's only one out of the thousands of fighters that are out there. There's no way you can get from A to B super easy without injuries, without life getting in the way. You know?
Yeah, it's really.
That's something that younger fighters really need to know. You can't idolize the people or the things you see on Facebook or Instagram. That's not the real life. You know, just get in there and train.
Yeah, exactly. Training is the truth. You know what I
Training is
mean?
the
Training
truth.
is the
No
truth.
matter what, the technique's going to be the same.
And when
So
I
get
was
in there.
when I was younger, and you know, I was more. I still watched the evolution, but I thought you had to go to every tournament and you had to watch every fight and you had to know every fighter. Now I don't, and I always wondered why Half didn't care about going to the tournaments and knowing. Oh, you see this guy? Who the fuck is that guy? You know, he didn't even really give a shit. And now I really understand. I have that mentality a little bit more because I know what I need to do. I need to practice the techniques that I know that work. I need to be in the gym every day. I need to be training on the mat. That's the truth. Okay,
That
it
is the only
doesn't
truth.
matter who you know, what you watch. Fighters fight. You got to train, man. You know what I mean? It's like you wake up and you just want to train.
And I think that's why the older generation is doing so well now against the younger generation. It used to be called a young man sport.
Yeah.
Fighting
It's
is
not.
a young man sport,
It's
but
not.
it's not. It's
The
a
old-
sport of knowledge.
The old
It's a
guys
sport
are
of
starting
knowledge,
to
yeah, right?
smash.
Manny Pacquiao,
Shit,
40
yeah.
years old, just beat the crap out of Keith Thurman. 40
Yeah.
years old in there. Bernard Hopkins.
This
50
ain't
years
just a young
still
man
champ,
sport no
You
more.
know, like,
Yeah. I think
It's not.
Henzo Gracie fought like a year ago.
Oh yeah,
at
you're
like
right.
52
yes.
or something like that.
And
You know?
it's all about the knowledge. It doesn't matter. Get in the gym and train. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
since we're on Barrier Combat, what's going on with the next show? I haven't heard anything about it.
Well,
yet.
we're doing October 26th. We got some good fights starting to line up.
Right there on the board.
There we go.
Yeah, it's just that's the start of our preliminary matchups and stuff. We got some.
Who are the headliners for the show?
Well, this is we're still in talks on the negotiating the matchups right now.
Los Santos.
Yeah, but
De
we're
Los
still.
Santos.
No, don't talk about that right now because that's still up in the conversation. here.
Uh-oh. We're out here leaking information.
Yeah, we
Barrier
can't-
Combat
Yeah,
leaks.
well, see, the thing is though, it's like the thing is you bring it out across the table and stuff, and it's not agreed upon on all sides. Then all of a sudden, then you start seeing how moody some of these teams can get, or if you piss somebody off, or or if you go against their protocol, because being a matchmaker is like it's really tough because every team has a different procedure. Every team has a different type of level of communication. Some teams are talk to the fighter. Some teams are talk to the manager. Some teams are talk to the coach only. And it's like you just for me it's just I kind of work my way through the pathways and try to figure out which way is the best way to go.
It is tough.
And it's like but I do got some good fights lined up that I tell you what they're gonna be fire. I'll tell you that much. They're definitely gonna be some
The big
fire.
news about our show is that we are in discussion that we are going to stream our show live.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
that is awesome.
That's
Nice
awesome.
and free.
Everyone.
The way that
That's
it should
great.
be,
The
like
way it was
watching
when I was
boxing on
growing
HBO,
up and
going
Wide
right.
World Sports,
The
and
family
we
gets
watching
together,
Muhammad
a
Ali
little
and
popcorn.
Mike Tyson.
That's the best. That's the
prior
best.
to pay-per-view.
Yeah, what is all that? Pay-per-view has ruined fight
yeah,
sports.
it
so.
has ruined it. I
it has a
agree
lot,
with you.
you
So
know.
Steve and we had meetings last
I haven't paid
week,
for a pay-per-view in
and,
so long.
and we
I don't-
were gonna
I don't
we
watch
were
that
gonna
shit no
stream
more.
our shit live. So if anyone's out there watching and they want their company advertised in between the fights, that's how we're gonna make our
Awesome.
money.
Hey,
That
do
is
you know
awesome.
what? I don't know if you guys can hear this.
Everyone can hear it.
Hold on. Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. Can you speak up? Say hi to the
Why
crowd.
are you yelling?
Hi.
Hey, everybody. This guy on the voices, Joe Hurley. Introduce yourself to the crowd, Joe.
The Joe Hurley.
Joe.
Oh
I always
snap!
love how we have
Heard
to
so
throw
many
up
stories
everything. My name's Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's 4 of them in the world.
yeah. Well, you're the one and only Joe Hurley. So everybody. So Joe, kind of introduce yourself real quick.
My dad and my son are the one and only, but
AKA the Wolverine.
The Wolverine. Yeah.
who am I talking to right now besides you?
That's we got Mikyo Riggs here at in our studio, and Donasabi Muhammad, our profile.
Hey, told me about Muhammad.
Yeah.
You're pretty tough, dude.
Yeah, I know. I've heard
Better
so
put
many
it to
stories of
Mike,
him.
Steve.
I heard you're pretty Christian for being named Muhammad. I thought that was kind of funny.
Right? That's what everybody thinks. They must trip out every time they see me paying my tithes. Right? Like,
Yeah,
don't
I
have to
can't
be
hear
Muhammad.
what he said.
Don't open
Hey,
the
so
envelope.
yeah, so that's kind of amazing, Joe. You calling in at the same time we're on our podcast. What a treat, Joe. So we're in our studio right now doing a live podcast.
Are you
You're on.
sorry, you
Yeah,
busy
you're
or-
live.
You're
dude.
you're on the air right now.
Yeah, we're
You're
live.
live.
You're live.
Oh, I'm on some radio station or something?
Dude. You're on our YouTube
Barry
podcast,
Combat.
Barry Combat's podcast right now.
Yeah, we
A
live.
podcast.
Yeah. No, it's
That's awesome. You know, the only time I've ever done those, I was trying to find Colt because his wife had cancer and my wife had cancer. But
I
that's
think you
awesome.
called me, Joe, looking for Colt.
And I got a flat tire in the middle of it too. While I had my kids in the car.
so hey,
Crazy.
so Mikyo here is the one that knows Colt also.
Yeah, I used to train with Colt back in the day.
And it's really hard to hear you guys.
Oh, hey.
You
so,
too.
well, I'll tell you what. Let me
'cause
call
you're on
you.
the phone.
Yeah, you're on the phone. Hey, let me call you
And we're
back
on the
in a
mic.
few minutes, Joe, and then I'll get back to you in about 10 minutes. Okay?
Okay. Don't worry, I am babysitting, so I have some background noise going on too.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
all good, brother. All right, bye.
All right, bye.
All right. So I
Anyway, so back to what
So
I was
that was-
saying
hey, so-
is that I'm looking forward to
Streaming.
us going live and
Live
streaming.
streaming.
Yeah.
Live streaming. And
Improving the promotion.
exactly.
Every show. Getting
Not
always
better
only
and
about
that,
better.
I get off on thinking there's some kid
Hey-o.
in fucking Iowa and a cornfield watching our shows.
Well, I
And
think that even like
It's
there's
exciting to me.
teams, there's but even promotions, like me and Steve, I was loyal to Cage Combat. I believed in the promotion, I believed in the show, and
Yeah.
believed that it was gonna go somewhere and what
Yeah.
it stood for, and that's what you guys are building with Bay Area
Correct.
Combat. You want people to believe that you got the fighter's best interest, that you're gonna make the
Correct.
best matches, that
and
you're gonna.
free MMA.
Yeah, that's great.
And like I was telling Steve, I go, we build this and get this live thing going, then it could be free jujitsu
Yeah.
tournaments and
I think
free
the-
kickboxing, and let's promote all these guys in Northern California.
In Brazil,
and we
all
have
the
it on our channel. It'll
all
be
the
on
jiu-jitsu
the-
tournaments are on TV in Brazil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really
That's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, you just watch it like ESPN, just the
Yeah,
fights,
yeah. Well, it won't be on TV. It'll be on YouTube. But
Well, that's
you
cool.
can pick
That's
it up
still,
on your
it's
phone.
still streamed live. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
pay-per-view.
Most people have smart
ruins the
TVs now,
sport,
anyways, and they can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
throw them up
So
there.
that's the big announcement for the next show, other than Steve's fights. Sorry.
So,
okay, so I'll back out.
Steve's fighting, huh?
So
Well,
the gentleman,
Steve
so
matchmaking.
the
He
gentleman
has a
that just
fight though in August.
so the guy who just called in and kind of caught me off guard, I wasn't really expecting. That's Joe Hurley. He's got a 12-5 record. He was actually one of the original Lions Den fighters under Jerry Bolander. Top
Way,
ranked,
way back.
dude. Yeah, hey, he was like top ranked 155er in the United States, in the world at one time.
He fought at 155?
Dude, I know he was.
Right?
Yeah, that's what he
When he
fought.
fought Nick Diaz?
I wanted to
What-
fight
what-
Joe.
What was that?
Let me pull that up right now.
You
So,
wanted to fight Joe?
I wanted to fight Joe. Yeah. No disrespect.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
for
like,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted
It's
to
just
fight
such
him.
a small world. It's so
Yeah,
funny, right?
Yeah, I wanted to fight him.
yeah, I can't. It doesn't say up here.
Well, that's
so.
crazy.
I think Nick Diaz got to him
He did,
first.
he
Yeah,
did.
Nick Diaz got
Yeah,
him.
Pop-
Gotcha. That was his
I think
last
it's-
fight, right? That was his last.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the announcement now? I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out why
No,
you
we're
called
just
in.
talking.
We're just talking.
He picked up the phone during the middle of the podcast.
Yeah, well,
Steve
yeah,
wants to talk about Joe. I don't know.
right.
what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, you know,
I
though,
drove all the way out here. We're talking
Is that
about
right?
Joe. Like, hey, get on the phone. I'm just like,
what?
bro, I'm
I
right,
thought
I'm right
he
here.
got an
Ron's right over there, man. We're on the show.
It's amazing.
just
Though, hey,
kidding.
but it's amazing.
Joe's,
though, it's
Joe's a
like-
good dude.
Yeah, it's amazing though. It's like how far our podcast and who it's reaching these days. You know, like Joe Hurley. I haven't seen him in a long. He's actually got me ready for one of my previous fights too. You know, it's like I've cornered him. And
Joe, where are you? I need to get ready.
I know.
But I just pulled up the URCC card, the Dragon House card, and it seems like they have some interesting fights. They're talking about Adam Walmsley. He's going to be fighting Steven Tandoy.
Tandoy, yeah.
Yeah, Tandoy, who's 1-0. That seems like a fun
Love
fight
Adam.
for sure.
Yeah,
He's fighting out of Integrated Martial Science Academy in Santa Cruz.
So how do you think that
You heard of
fight's
that
going to go?
I think
Two grinders. So who
they're
do you
both
think?
wrestlers.
They're both leg humpers.
Yeah, but
Come
Adam,
on,
he
Adam.
throws-
Adam's a little more
throws hands.
experienced,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's more
Adam-
experienced.
Yeah.
He's
Adam
had
got
like,
some-
he's
he's
like
got
15,
hands.
20 amateur, 15 amateur fights, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
He's been
it's-
around.
That's a lot of experience.
Yeah,
you know?
Adam's only losses is in amateur fights that he shouldn't have fought. I mean, like heavyweight.
There's no such thing as fights you shouldn't
Oh,
fight as an
dude,
amateur.
as a fucking heavyweight, though, he's not a heavyweight fighter though, but he fought
yeah, for
heavyweight
sure.
fights.
But he didn't fight at heavyweight in his last few fights, though, right? He fought at the weight
But
class he was supposed to
he's
be.
fighting, yeah.
After that, Brady Wang is going to be fighting again, which is pretty awesome. Where are you at? Yeah, Brady Wang is 9-1 now. You know, he's got like 3 or 4 titles, but he's fighting a guy that's 12-12. Sergio Cortez. I don't know if it's like
Who's Sergio Cortez?
he fights out of Neuron Boxing and MMA in Fresno. I don't know if this is a tune-up fight for him because I know he hasn't fought in a little bit.
He lost his last one. I
He
think,
lost his
yeah.
last one, but a little bit of him not fighting for a little bit is like any fighter's normal time being out.
Yeah,
That guy is
yeah.
fighting like every other day,
Yeah,
getting a title.
Yeah, he's a tough guy.
He's a tough guy, definitely.
Some good fights.
And what is up with this? I'm sorry, I like both of these guys. Both of these guys are great, but this matchup is it's just not cool. It doesn't make any sense. It's at 155. Brandon Femoy fights for Dragon House. He's 5-3. And he's fighting Anthony Taylor, who normally fights at 35, and who's 5-5. I don't know if he won his last fight or lost it either. And it's going to be for the title 155. Again,
35er?
Anthony Taylor is it says he's 5'7", but I know he's like 5'6" probably. And then Brandon's 5'10", and it's at 155.
So what are you saying?
Guy that's
I don't
5'5"
agree
is
with.
5'3".
I don't think
agree
that
with
fighters
either.
that go up and move around in weight, like it's ever really
Yeah.
a good idea.
It's
You know
never
what I
a
mean?
good idea.
The
Yeah, especially
lower
if you're
weight
that
fighter,
small.
the lower weight fighter always has the disadvantage. you know
Yeah,
what I
for
mean?
sure. He's coming up from fighting at 35 usually.
And he's a
The guy's coming down. You always keep the strength.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. When
it's
you're
just crazy. I don't understand why the matchup was even made, especially for a title, because that's.
Yeah, that's why I never understood all those
Well, you
super
never-
fights in the UFC.
You know, the
like
money may have been right. It may have made
Money
sense.
may have been right.
Dude, it may have made sense to him. Obviously, he took the fight, so you know what?
Yeah,
if
I mean,
it,
he's the kind of guy that's going to take a fight no matter what. He flew to Ireland, like, on
Yeah.
a day notice.
on a date. Yeah, exactly, on a day notice to go
Right.
fight 2 times.
If you want to fight, you can find fights.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
You know, though, Pretty
Yeah.
Boy's got he's got a good stage presence and stuff. You know what I mean?
He's got a stage presence.
and that's
like a
you know, and it's like it is a spectator sport though.
And them
It's,
Irish
you know,
love chocolate rain out there. So he was just raining chocolate drops everywhere.
It's a spectator sport, all that, but I don't think that you have to. The shit
Sell
talking,
out.
I think, is kind of got
Out
a
of
little
control.
bit out
Played
of
out,
control.
yeah.
now. Yeah, it's a little out of control.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do you want the next generation to look like? What do you want the kids to follow?
yeah,
you know,
for
I mean,
sure.
maybe I'm just getting old
Yeah, no,
and
but a
thinking
lot of people
should
the
conduct themselves.
respect is so. It's just it's leaving.
Yeah,
like you go to
it
fights
is.
and there's fights breaking out in the crowd, people talking
Dude,
shit to
I
each
know.
other.
It's like,
Every fighter. Like I went to a Bellator show not that long ago. In the crowd, there's a guy that doesn't fight for Bellator, obviously, like he's a pro fighter though. We know he is screaming and yelling at one of the fighters that's walking down with the Nate Diaz walking with him. I'll whip your ass, blah blah blah, yelling, screaming like, what are you doing, man?
he's trying to sell a fight that he
Selling
don't
a
got.
fight, that's not gonna happen. Like,
yeah.
why are
Right.
you doing that? And why are you doing that in front of thousands of kids? Especially those bigger shows. People bring kids too.
I don't see
Stupid.
why
Let's
anyone
ride.
needs to talk, man. Get in
Yeah.
the cage and
Yeah.
we'll all see.
Tell
We'll
your
all see.
manager to call
Yeah.
his manager because it's not
Do your
that difficult.
talking.
Yeah,
Right.
but you know,
Exactly.
yeah,
Do your talking
all
in the
that
ring,
shit
man.
talk doesn't do a fucking do
That's
it.
what I'm
It-
saying.
it-
Yeah, it doesn't.
It just makes you look like a fucking
You
idiot.
look like a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time I tried to talk shit. It really didn't work out well. I'm just not good at it. I just sound like weird and rapey,
I know. I'm not good at talking shit. I get in a lot of fights because I never was good at that the talking shit
Like,
game.
what do
You know what I mean?
Are you trying to fight me or you trying to make love to me? What are you doing?
Yeah. It's
So
crazy.
Steve has a fight coming up in August, and the same weekend, Joe Cropshot, our
Oh, that dude. He's a
Bear
beast,
combat
man.
champ,
Drop shot.
yeah.
Oh, snap.
gone pro, he'll be fighting in Tahoe. I mean, we got some good stuff coming up. Right?
Steve's gonna motivate me to get back in there.
Yeah, right? Let's do
So
it.
let's talk about that. Hey, so it's like I'm maybe a rare find, as far as like athleticism and fucking fighting capabilities and
Good
stuff.
It
looks.
seems like it's coming.
But do you ever notice though? It's like there seems to be a more
Yes, there's an influx of people that are
they're
older,
older
starting
that
to
want
come
to
back and
fight
Yeah.
It is.
on a high competitive
On a
level.
competitive
I would
level.
also just say, like, with me and my gym, I have older guys than ever starting. Guys that I didn't think could, back in the day, I'd be like, you're too old to train. You can't, but now just like.
But I
guys-
mean, things are so, technology is great.
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
surgeries, people know how to treat their bodies better.
Right.
You got
Yeah.
stuff like cryotherapy for inflammation now. You don't
Yeah,
have to take up
all that
ibuprofen.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's like when I'm dieting better, it's like my fucking body's a racing engine.
Yeah, and you don't have to people aren't out there like dying in the cage like they are in boxing. You
No.
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
the refs stop the fights when they're supposed to be stopped. And again, it's a sport of knowledge, and people
Right.
who know what they're doing know how to hold back from really, really hurting you when they can finish you. know?
Right.
So it's gonna.
Yeah. No, it's tough because if you take care of yourself right, the motivation to take care of yourself as a fighter and train smart is that you make your money and your peak of your career is on the back end. So if you hurt yourself on the way up, you don't get to have the success of your career.
I'm sorry, babe.
So you know what I mean? Though it's in your best interest though to
Yeah,
take
for
care of
sure.
yourself because the older you get, the more you know. I know more now than I ever did, but I don't have the body that I had. You know what I mean? I don't have the vehicle, but I have the knowledge. You know what I mean? And so, if you're able to take care of yourself and make your prime at like 35, 38. You know what I mean?
That's and
that's a
where all the champs
dangerous
are.
fighter.
That's where all the
Dangerous
champs
fighter.
are.
Yeah.
And again, Manny Pacquiao, 40 years old, he's a world champ again. Bernard Hopkins, 49, he was a world champ.
Incredible.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really,
Not common, but
Yeah, not
incredible.
common,
Like
Yeah.
it's like Randy Couture. He's another older,
Yeah, but
great.
within the next 20 years, I think it's going to be much more common,
I
especially with
agree.
the way technology is. People know how to take care of their body, and then the knowledge. is just-
Absolutely. Yeah.
people are learning like at an exponential rate too,
Right.
like becoming black belts in such a short amount of time. There's
Yeah.
just so much information.
Yeah. It's that experience, though. Nothing can substitute the experience
yeah,
of the
that's
years.
for
You know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah.
The wisdom and the knowledge. You have that, and also still a body that can get it done. Oh, it's a dangerous, a dangerous fighter, man. It's a
I
dangerous
still can't
fighter.
get past this being sore shit.
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah.
talk about your fight, Steve.
Steve,
Well,
Let's hear it.
actually, it's up to
Jerry
Don.
Brown, yeah. Did you fighting Jerry Brown at CFC?
Yep.
That's gonna be at the Chicken Ranch Casino
Yep.
on August 24th. It's gonna be pretty
Chicken Ranch
exciting.
in California, not the Nevada one, right?
California Chicken
Because I
Ranch.
keep hearing people
I
talking
don't know. Every
about the
time I hear
Nevada
Chicken
Chicken
Ranch,
Ranch.
I get hungry.
Like that.
So there's no girls there, right, Steve?
Hopefully there's girls there, right? But, no, but it's the Chicken Ranch Casino up in Jamestown. It's going to be Oscar Martinez is hosting the show. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a sellout crowd. I think it's a small venue show, which is great. Small venue shows have such energy.
The
It's like
energy
you
is
can't beat it.
Yeah,
Energy is
It's
amazing.
like, dude,
I
it's-
love them way more than the big.
Yeah,
the
for
Right,
big
so
shows.
do I.
yeah.
Plus, they got some real good. They got some really good. Oscar got some really sick, like real grudge match
Yeah,
fights.
do you know any of the other matchups? Anybody that these guys possibly will know?
Well, we got like we talked about this a couple podcasts ago. Is Oscar Ron Monahan's fighting Antonio Jimenez, a little grudge match. Because some things have been said here and there, and it's gonna be a good old slobber knocker grudge match. I mean. There's nothing better than to handle your business professionally in a cage and let your shit go out there. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. Another part of the old MMA scene. If you had a beef with somebody, you can go into the cage and fight it out.
Absolutely.
And leave it there out of respect for each other. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's such.
Yep.
It's like that's the way to handle shit.
I hate when people fight and then they don't shake hands afterwards. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, what else is there? To,
Yeah,
like,
right.
what- you guys still got a problem, man?
Yeah,
Go
right.
another round.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You got a problem that you made up, like a problem.
Right. It's like this should be a really good fight.
He
It's
says my shorts don't look good.
like right, how dare you, right?
There's a few fighters on this card that I've seen before. Justin Lin, I know he fought for Bellator a few times, and he was on the main card once or twice. He fought, can't remember where he fought. One of the Bellator's famous guys.
So is this considered a pro
It's-
fight, or
yeah, he's
what's
yeah.
the deal here?
Yeah, it's a pro fight.
Yeah, they're all pro fights, right? All of them.
No, there's some
I
amateur
mean, the good
fights
thing
there
about
too.
Steve is you got a promoter that's actually a fighter. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's
He
the
will
kind of
split
show
your
you want.
wig.
That's the kind of show you want to support, because when you got people that are they just have business interest, it's always dangerous.
They don't
man.
have the
People
love.
exploiting the fighters, exploiting everything about it, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved with that.
That's for sure.
personally,
That is for sure.
So are you helping Steve to prepare?
Oh, always. I'm always here for Steve. Steve.
So you all train
Steve is welcome at my gym. He comes down once a week. We do some stuff. I show him secret moves.
You do?
Unreleased.
Yeah,
Secret stuff.
Nice.
Don's my main corner, and then I got Mikyo. Hopefully he's going to be able to make it out this time.
Man.
I got some real good training camp. I'm already losing the weight.
You've lost a lot of weight.
Yep,
You do, you look
leaned
good,
out,
man.
leaned out a lot.
Better than you have in years, actually, man. It's
Yeah.
really
So I
impressive.
know a
Punch
few of
face
these
is the
fights
fountain of youth.
have been planned, and the guys fell through. What do you think with this guy? Is he gonna?
Oh, he'll show.
man.
This guy
You think
don't.
he'll show?
He don't give a fuck. He's fought a couple.
Oh, Jerry Brown? Jerry Brown.
He don't give a
Jerry
fuck.
Brown is down.
Yeah, he don't
See,
give
I
a
think we
fuck.
got to get Jerry Brown on
Jerry
the phone
Brown
or
is
something.
down.
Let's talk to him. It's exciting.
If we could call him, but I don't think we can.
Yeah, he.
That's what we need.
But
Not,
see,
I
the
mean,
thing
not
is,
right now,
Well,
but
in the future.
before
No,
August.
he's an older guy.
let's
I think
get him
he's
on the
like,
phone.
I think he's like 44, older guy. But it's like the guy's willing to fight.
Fights, yeah.
Dude, he fought fucking Caleb Mitchell. Caleb Mitchell's a beast.
Caleb's tough.
And it's like, I mean, he's
What
not.
happens when you don't give a hot dog?
You don't give a fuck. Back in the, that's the fight mentality though.
Yeah.
He don't care win or lose. He's gonna go out and fight. He puts it out there. I hope that
That's a dangerous fighter. The
Yeah,
guy
so
that
who
doesn't
just-
care win or lose. The guy that no one told him he's supposed to lose or what. He's just
He
in
don't
there to
care.
fight.
Broken bones,
and
still moving forward.
And I've watched a lot of video and study him. Like he's got a winging hard right, and I've seen him throw. He just throws.
Throws, yeah.
I think it's gonna be a good show because I'm gonna go out there and try to put on the best show that I can for the crowd. Make them fucking like wish they see more of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know, and that's what I want to do.
So he's a striker, he's a
Don't
roller
really-
on the ground,
don't-
or
well-
what's his background?
You tell us, and we'll fucking go
I
with
don't
that.
know, I'm
From what I've seen,
asking.
he likes to stand up. He's not afraid to go
stand-up
to the
guy.
ground, but he is better on his feet for sure.
He likes to bang.
Yeah. Which who doesn't, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like my strong point's on the ground, but I like banging more than anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So I saw on your Facebook post, you're with our boy last night, Diego.
Oh yeah, Diego Bigelow.
Love that guy.
Yeah, so I talked to
Let's
Diego
talk
a little
about that.
bit. So so Diego's going to take a little time off. He's not out of the gym, but he's going to take a little time off out of the fighting. And
Let your body heal.
yep. Well, you know, sometimes losses sometimes give you a little bit more perspective and better area to work from. It's like losses will teach you some of the best shit that you need to work on and stuff. Diego didn't bring his best performance to the cage that day. Diego's a stud. You know, he's very gifted.
Who did he fight, Dasha?
He fought Eugenio Garcia.
Oh, that was a fight.
Eugenio brought it. I was impressed.
He was in shape.
Yeah.
You know, I really thought that Bigelow had it the first round. His movement was great. He
Right,
just like he
moved
looked
around.
The first round he was doing really, really well, and I was like, oh wow, this is gonna be a the
Good
fight's
fight.
gonna- But then all of a sudden his gas tank just I don't know if he wasn't training or something, but his
Uh,
first one round of 3 minutes he was done.
Yeah, you know,
He's
it's like,
gassed.
hey, you know, my hat's off to Eugenio because Eugenio,
He brought
he
the
was
heat
the underdog.
whole time.
Yeah, he was the underdog in this matchup, you know, because, you know, Diego got he's the title holder for a reason, you know, tough guy. And then fucking Eugenio just came out and just brought it to him
Yeah,
and
for sure.
finished the fight. You know,
And you're
Euge-
talking about Raymond's brother Diego, right?
No,
No, different Diego?
different
Different,
Diego,
okay,
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
That
Diego.
guy too.
Yeah, I just didn't know which.
Yo,
There's so many
gas tank,
Diegos,
nah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't know.
You know, so yeah, he's going to come back and hopefully he does his last fight as an amateur on our show.
Man, I really hope these amateurs understand that you do have
So
to,
he
like
wants
you're
to come
talking,
back?
taking care of your body, you know? Like, even
Right.
now, I have trouble. I can't, like, no matter what, if I'm hurt, I still want to go to the gym. Like, I don't care. I'll work
Right.
through it. And that's just not the way to train. It's not
Yeah,
the way.
yeah. So Diego's been back in the gym. He started to train. You know,
I
and
can't
like
help it.
Yeah, I can't stay
it's,
out. I
it's,
can't,
yeah. So
it's
it was,
built in me, you know. I can't.
Hey Deborah, what's the next date after our October show? Do you know off the top of your head?
We have not picked the dates for 2020.
So it's probably going to be in
So we're
February
thinking
sometime.
February, March. I mean, it's our trend, February, March. We've been talking about doing 4 shows a year versus 3. So that might squeeze it out, but you and I need to hammer that out. We haven't done that.
So what's up with this pro show that's coming around? Because I would
Well,
love to
we're
fight for a Bay
waiting.
Well,
Area
you're gonna be-
That
combat
would
pro
be epic,
show.
yeah.
You're gonna
right?
be,
First on, yeah.
Hanging out.
Have you been
Yeah.
out in the
I
back?
could roll out of my bed to
I
get
know,
on the
I know.
scale.
Local show.
Right?
Dream.
Have you been out in the back at Napa Valley Expo? They have a
Yeah, of
big,
course, they have a
big
beautiful
area
spot. They have a
that they
beautiful
built
spot
for Bottle Rock.
Yeah, it's
And
perfect.
it's like
The
it'd be
stage area is perfect, yeah.
perfect, dude,
Yeah, right.
for freaking.
And especially there's like a private table area that
It's
would go
fucking
perfect up there.
nice, man. We have a stage area. I mean, that's what Steve and our goal is, but.
I
you
could
know,
ride my bike to the fights, you know,
We need
like-
the support,
That's
we
the
need the
best.
You're
support
close
of the
by.
community and everyone to get us there to be able to afford to
That's
do
true.
that.
So we need everybody from
Everyone
Napa to
thinks
come
we're
out and
putting on the
support.
show that we're
Yeah.
making
We
money.
need
We're
everybody
not.
from Napa to come out and
We
support.
need support, man. We need
Yeah.
everyone, the community, everyone to fight, to support us.
If
So
you like local shows and local fighters, you got to come out
you
and
gotta
show
come
the
out and
support,
support.
or they
and
won't be
we're-
there.
And if we're gonna go pro, it's
Yeah.
hella money, and it's like, you know, I mean, we're not getting that love and support yet to be able to go live with that.
One day though, one
But
day.
no,
Yeah,
Steve,
we're on,
still
our,
growing.
we're on our way.
Definitely.
we're
your way,
on
yeah.
our way, and Steve and I just keep chipping away, and everyone wants us to do it, but
Gotta
man,
keep chipping
we
away.
need
Well,
people at the show.
You know,
and,
guys.
and sponsors. You know,
Keep
so.
grinding.
Yep. So it's about 1:30, you guys, almost, and so I know you got some previous engagements. So I want to wrap up this podcast.
I was
Thanks
waiting
for
to talk
having
about
me.
aliens.
I know.
I
So,
was
I was
waiting
just-
to
I
talk
know.
about marijuana and aliens.
so I hope that
I
Mikyo,
give you
you
my
come
flat
out.
Earth
You're right.
theories, but
Get a little Joe
yeah.
Rogan over
lay down
here.
the secrets, the real secrets. But I thought we were just warming up, man.
I
was
know, I know.
ready to hang out all
We
day.
need to talk about Joe's Crop Shot show.
No, thanks for having me out,
Yeah,
guys.
for sure, it was
Yeah.
awesome having you out. Great
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
to you.
you know,
Thank
so-
you for giving us and everybody, you know, listening a little bit of history on what MMA is and where it came from.
You know, that wasn't
Anytime,
all of
man.
it though. He's got a little bit more in there. Believe me.
He's
I
got the
could-
knowledge.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
We'll talk about our friends with hatchets in their trunks and jumping out of cars.
Let's go.
Crazy
Let's
shit in
go.
the future.
Yeah.
Okay.
How
And
long
then,
have you guys known each other?
too long.
Since 2007.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
a long time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
So you've been
How about
training that long together?
He's
I've known
actually,
Steve since 2009. Isn't that crazy?
yep. So,
Yeah, that's I guess it is coming up on a long time.
yeah.
I have
Or was
found
it
that
2008? No, it
the
was
short time
2008.
I've been involved in it.
2008?
Or
that only-
2000, yes. Yeah, because I was 17. Yeah, so it's 8 or 7.
Something like that.
I thought it was
That's
in
crazy.
2006 that we knew each other.
Yeah, yeah, it would be early. It
You-
would have been early
fought,
for
you
you
fought
guys.
in
Yeah.
our first show.
Yeah.
So it's been 2006.
Yeah, yeah,
11/6 was a fucking.
How'd
that's-
you do on that show?
Oh, you guys. You
All
got
my
the
guys
date.
won.
You got the anniversary.
I'll just
I
add that in.
remember-
All my guys won on that show, but
Yeah, I remember
Who's
when it
counting?
was. So.
But who's counting? 50 and 4.
All right,
Nobody's
so
counting.
you guys, so this is another episode of Bay Area Combat.
Awesome.
And we will be joining you next Sunday for another podcast, and we'll have some more exciting guests. And
Not to be Papa Midnight Muhammad signing out.
and we'll talk to you guys
Mikyo
later.
Riggs.
Thanks a lot, you guys.
thank
White
you very
chocolate
Bye,
thunder.
everybody.
much. Call me.